An improvised story by Boone Snape. Okay, once upon a time there was a little girl named Jessie, and she would always hang around in the forests near the home where she lived. Now these forests were extremely deadly because they are made of licorice, but not ordinary licorice. This was like living licorice. This licorice would come around and like whip anybody that be walking by. It was just kind of dickish like that. But anyway, so little Jessie's walking through this forest, which she always does, but she's never had a problem with the licorice. I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe he just liked her. I don't know. She's a nice girl, but she was walking through the forest and she comes across a giant bear. Now, this bear is also made of licorice because just everything in this forest is made of licorice. And this bear comes up to her and he's just like, "Hey, Jessie, got a boat. Want to get on it?" And she's like, "Sure, why not?" So they get on a boat and they're riding down the licorice river made of liquid licorice. And it's like liquid hot. You fall in, you'll get covered in licorice and it'll like burn and shit. So they're going down the river of licorice and they come across a giant petrodactyl just flying around in the sky. Now this petrodactyl is a rock that he likes to drop on people. But it's only one rock. Whenever he just drops, he just goes back down and pick it up again because he's too lazy to find a new one. Now, this petrodactyl was going to try and drop it on Jessie and Mr. Bear. But luckily, the bear had a very special slingshot that would shoot anti-petrodactyl little rocks at petrodactyls. And he shot it at the petrodactyl, thus making it fall into the river of liquid licorice and die. So they continue to ride down this river, and they come across a waterfall. And this waterfall goes for miles down, like it goes to the other side of the planet into another waterfall, two waterfalls falling into each other for eternity. And so the Mr. Bear's like, "Hey, why don't we ride down this waterfall, see what's on the other side of the planet? Could be fun, could be awesome, might die, who cares? Let's give it a shot." So, and Jessie's like, "Sure, why not?" So they fall down the waterfall, and they're falling for days, weeks, eventually years, and they're getting old. And he's gotten so old, they've both gotten so old that they didn't get young again. They've gone full circle with age. So eventually they fall to the other side, and they realize that they are in China. I'm not sure where they were originally, but wherever that waterfall falls, it falls in China. So they're in China, and they realize they've been following so long, they're kind of hungry now. So they go to a restaurant, and so they sit down and have a pot full of noodles, because it's good noodles and they're in China. But all of a sudden, the noodles come to life, because it turns out that this is not a restaurant, it's a front for an evil organization trying to take over the world with noodle monsters. So Licorice Bear and little Jessie are trying to run away from the noodle monsters. They're chasing Jessie and the bear, and they got him cornered in an alleyway. When all of a sudden, that petrodactyl from earlier comes back, except it's a skeleton now because it fell in the licorice river of flame and shit. But it's still got that rock, and all of a sudden it's good because sure, why not? And it drops the rock on the noodle monsters. And everybody knows that the one thing noodle monsters can't stand is rocks. So noodle monster's gone. Petrodactyl flies down, sits next to the bear and the little girl Jessie, and is like, "Hey, you guys want to come back to my place for a beer?" And they're like, "Sure, why not?" The end.